Good evening, this is Barb Pask here to paint for you again. I went out in the yard and I'll show you what I'm going to paint. Of course it's always blown out by the light, but I cut some peonies and some of the little irises. It's a shame, you know, they don't last longer. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they bloomed all summer, but you got to get them while they're here. So this is an 8 by 10. The size I paint on most often. It's a nice standard size to frame. And I'm going to start out and tone the canvas with an orange color. I just thought this would be a fun challenge. Want to be impressionistic painting the flowers, and of course glass is always a fun challenge. Welcome to you if you're a new subscriber, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I paint in water mixable oils, if you're not aware of that. I watched a demo today with Lori McNee, and that's what she uses. She uses the same brand I do. I use mostly Cobra. They're oils. I mean, she does use a medium with them, some kind of solvent, and but I like them. I thin them with a little water if I need to, but other than that, I don't do anything else. So we get a nice warm tone on our canvas, and we're going to use our view catcher and set up our composition. If you're not familiar with this and you paint, you absolutely need one. You adjust it for the size canvas. In this case, it's an 8 by 10, and you can decide if you want to go vertical or horizontal. Obviously, this is a nice tall arrangement, so I'm going vertical to fit it on the canvas. Otherwise, it would look really dinky, and I'd have a lot of negative space, so that's why I'm going this route. Okay, I have fabric coming over the table, and I do kind of like that, so we may leave some foreground there. All right, kind of look how tall the vase is and how tall. I've talked about it before, but I don't know if you're a fan of Helen Van Wyck, but she just used to look at the negative space, how it hit on the canvas, and she would just kind of do this thing, which is not a bad thing to do, really, you know. Now, I kind of did that quickly without thinking much about it, and I'm going to want to move. I don't want to, when I have a single item, I try not to do it dead center, so we're going to move it over. Okay. All right, let's think a little bit more about placement of things. I tend not to do a real particular sketch. I'll tell you part of the reason I don't. When you do a real precise sketch, a lot of times you're painting in the lines. You know, you'll because you've got to really put, and watercolors do have to work that way, but I don't. I can make a lot of changes, and but I don't want to be painting into the lines. I want it to be loose and impressionistic, and hopefully I like the arrangement that I've got here as I get going. I did it pretty quickly. And again, we want to stay over. Very pretty vase I've got here, cut crystal that my sister-in-law gave me years ago. Like I said, I'm not doing a real precise sketch, but I do want to make sure I've got things correct before I go. And you can do this type of thing to see that you're getting things symmetrical. You know, just go around both sides. I grouped the irises together because they're tiny little things. I thought maybe one of them will explain well enough that you can tell it's an iris. Is what I'm thinking. I don't know. We'll try it. I think what we're going to do is, before we get going here, I think I'm going to wipe out where the, I'm thinking I'm going to wipe out where the pink peonies are maybe. You know, and this is not a bad way to start a painting either, is to tone the whole thing and wipe out your drawing. I have done that, and I do that occasionally. This peony that's hanging over here is in the shadow, and I got a little light catching here. All right, that's probably enough to get going. Let's start out with the greens that I see. I'm going to take ultramarine blue and some Indian yellow, which is a very dark, transparent green. Even though most greens are not that dark, we're going to start with that, and we can come back and lighten them up. And I have a lot of leaves down in the vase, so there's a lot of greens in here. And again, this is much darker than most of the greens I see, but that's okay. We can come back with more yellow and put in the lights. And we may run something off the canvas so it doesn't end up. We probably will, actually. Let's go ahead and kind of wipe that up and off. I don't want, you know, when you frame something, you don't want a little tiny, I hear some people call it a pinch point, you know. You got to think about those things, so. And I think we're going to go ahead, I'm just kind of jumping around. Usually I work dark to light and thick to thin. I think we're going to go ahead and mix up a dark, ultramarine blue, and transparent red oxide, which is the darkest dark that I can make. And I'm going to put a little white in it. And we're going to go ahead and paint in the background. In the vase, we're seeing through the vase, so we're going to go ahead and paint it dark too. When you paint glass, you know, like with anything, you paint what you see. And in this case, there's a lot of dark because I'm seeing through it. Just back from a walk. It's pretty hot out. It's in the 80s here yet. Took us a long time to warm up, and it's here. I joke that I just complain all year round. I'm too hot, I'm too cold. That is kind of the way it is. I like it when it's like 75. That's just perfect. My body really likes that. You know, I don't mind throwing on a little jacket. It gets too hot, and then I have difficulty dressing for it. Kind of looking where I see these darks showing back behind the flowers and through the flowers. And it's it's not like we can't adjust everything. We'll adjust what we need to, but until you get a lot of paint on there, it's, you know, it's hard to judge things really. You know, you kind of compare one color against the other, one value against the other, and then until you get some information on here, it's really hard to know what you want anyway. On this side, I warmed it up. I actually put a little yellow in there. I'm going to put a teeny bit of water in there. I don't want much, but I want it to move a little bit better. You know, I don't care really that I get all the orange covered up either. I mean, I did put it on there for a reason. Okay, let me look and see the shape of this. Something like that. All right, let's clean out our brush. I don't switch brushes a whole lot. And a lot of times I don't clean them too often either, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, if you wipe them off, if you bring some of the color from one thing to another, I don't think it hurts anything at all. Okay, let's start off with these pink flowers, and I think I'm going to start off. I'm going to mix up some different values, some darker values, probably 3 values. And I'm going to gray it down with a little green. We'll just see. I mean, I have no idea till I get going how it's going to work or not. And let's lay in the dark. There's not a lot of darks there, but where we see them. There's a bit of dark in this flower. Yeah, I just cut these, so there's probably bugs crawling around. I killed a couple right after I carried them in here. They must be sweet, because the bugs sure love them, don't they? Okay, this one over here is not catching any light. And I'm just mixing kind of as I go. And you don't see much of this one either. There's some light pink sticking up in there. And then there's a bud here. And you're not even really going to understand what you're seeing over there, which is okay. And this one back here, there's a bit of a dark in here. The light's really hitting right here, and the iris that's sticking up, that's what's catching most of the light. Yep, I see a bug in there crawling around. Oh well. An ant. Like I said, they must be sweet, because the ants really seem to like them. They're sure beautiful, aren't they? Peonies are pretty complicated flowers. I'm doing an impressionistic one, not a realistic one. We might, I might even get a palette knife in here later. And see, I'm holding the brush, I'm going across the brush. I try to do that a lot. That way you don't have as much control, and if you try to stay back on the brush too. That's what these long brushes are designed for. If you want to be loose, they say, use the biggest brush you can handle. And again, it helps to stay back on it. And you probably can't tell even for sure what kind of flowers this is, and that's okay. We're not going for photorealism. God, don't think I ever have the patience for that. Personally, everybody, and if you're just starting to paint, you need to figure out what you like. Look at a lot of paintings and find out whose style you like to figure out how you want to paint, what appeals to you. I like Impressionism, and I like seeing paint. I do like things to read correctly, but I like it when you get up on them and then you see the paint and the abstract quality of the painting. That's exciting to me. When you go to the art museum and you get your nose up in a John Singer Sargent and you can see his brush strokes, and oh my gosh, it's like, almost like you're there. It's so exciting. And we can even take almost pure white. I've got a little bit of pink in it. Let's try that, and hit some of these lighter places with a palette knife that are catching the light. It's coming across here and hitting over here. Let's move on to the purple. And the nice, cleanest, truest purple I can mix is crimson and ultramarine blue. I use a limited palette, a warm and cool of each primary and white. And I do use Indian yellow and transparent red oxide. Okay, so I'm mixing up a purple, those two primaries in white, and I'm looking at the purple, and it's more toward the blue than it is the crimson. And I'm going to put in the darker parts of it I see first. And now I've got just a mass of irises here, and it's a little, I admit it's a little confusing. But I've got one that sticks up in this area where I wipe that off, that I'm hoping to explain as an iris. And for now I'm just kind of drawing it in. Well, I hope everyone's well in your family and you're well, and won't it be nice when things get back to normal and we feel comfortable to go out and about, and kind of took it for granted, I guess, didn't we? I mean, goodness, not our fault. Whoever thought this would happen, right? Never. There's a bud back there catching some light too. I'll switch back to that other brush and back to my pink. There's a, I'd call it a bulb here that I really didn't get in very well. May need to put some more darks in there too. I think that's a little much for over here. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to lighten up some of this green mixture with some more yellow that I made. Maybe a little white. And look at some of these greens that are catching light. That one is. It's like a little bud there that's catching light. You know, when you get down here in the vase, and we can explain some of these stems. We're going to come back to this. Let me move on. I think those feel pretty good. Those feel like peonies, I think. Hearing fireworks from someplace. That's odd, isn't it? I live very close to, I don't know if you ever heard of it, Kings Island Amusement Park. It's a big amusement park, but I don't know what's going to happen this year, if they'll be able to even open. A leaf hanging out there. Okay, let's think about the vase. Let's kind of move on to that. Again, I'm trying to paint what I see. And I do see a lot of those darks through there. Glass is tricky. Again, you know, you don't just want to outline the whole thing, though you want to do some of that. I mean, you got to, again, try to paint what you see. So I'm mixing up. I'm making a mess over here. That's what I'm doing. If I wouldn't lay my brushes on my palette, I wouldn't get paint all over everything, right? All right, we're sticking them back where they belong. I took some cobalt and some white. You know, I'm just playing around. We'll see what we get here. So right now I've just got a light blue We're going to warm it up with some transparent red oxide. Going for more of a gray color for a lot of this vase. All right. There's a water line right there, which we'll have to come back and explain some of that. There's a real bright light on this side. And again, your water line is about here. And that, of course, is in front of the leaves. When you get down in here, it's really glowing. It's really pretty. Let's try to warm that up a little bit more with some more yellow and some more white. Looking at my proportions here. See, it's going to come down lower than my initial sketch. That's okay though. This is just, like I say, just kind of glowing on this side. An ant just found his way to me. Wow. He just showed up here on my easel. I'm going to be chasing him around, aren't I? We're not afraid of ants, right? I do not like bugs. Really bright light there, and there, and down here. And I will suggest some of that pattern. You know, and we could do some things that aren't here, like, you know, we could suggest a leaf over on this side if we wanted. We just have to watch not to make it, maybe do two of them, you know, we don't want to make it too symmetrical. Let's think about the foreground here. I've got it on a piece of white, yeah, I guess it's white fabric. I think what we'll do is into this mixture that we put in the background, we'll just add more white. So we keep things kind of uniform and in the same color family, you know. And we'll put that in the foreground. And of course we'll have to ground this and do a little something darker for the shadow. And I'm not going to bother with the fabric because I obviously am really too close to the edge to worry with that. Now I like not to have a hard edge from my background to my foreground. That's my taste. Some people do a real precise, like tabletop, but I don't like that myself. And I do want to leave some of this orange showing through, you know, I do. Let's mix up something darker. I'll leave a link in the description box for my website that if you've never visited my website, you could check out more of my work that way. And if you aren't subscribed and you just found me, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, of course. I appreciate and enjoy your comments. I read them all. And this is my impression of that vase. I can see that this is bigger, this is longer. My proportions aren't just like that, and that's okay. As long as it feels all right, that's the thing. As I look at it, I can see that it's off, and I can tell you where it's off. Does it matter? This is okay. Then there's a piece here, then it goes down, there's a stem. If I moved it, it would come way down here. Does it matter? I don't know. That's a drawing error. I guess it's an error if it matters. It's not, it's just for me, and it's not a commission. And I think it reads okay. One thing I do want to do is consider bringing some of this pink down into the vase. Reflected color, I like that. I like moving colors around and seeing the pink other places. Okay. mix up something that's a little bit orange. That's a little too dark. Maybe add it to this iris that I do see some of that in there. And you can see a lot of our tone, which is good. I like that. I'm going to be chasing ants around when I get off of here, aren't I? They get around pretty quick. Okay, I'm just mixing up an orange color and I'm putting some white in it because there's a really pretty warm highlight on the side of this vase. And we're going to put a little bit of it in the top. Okay. It's especially pretty right there. Let's see if we see any other. Okay, down on this part where it comes out, I see a little bit of that color. And you'll see when I show you the setup again that the proportions are not right on this vase. You know, I could redo it, but that's okay. It's just that I've shortened it up. Go a little darker on this shadow where it's closer to the vase. All right, are we done maybe? Looking around for any little places I could throw color and light. And if these leaves were here, which we're just kind of making them up, they would be catching more light. A little too much. This is one of those cases where you could turn this upside down, which I do that frequently, and check to make sure everything feels proportionate. really a good way to do it. You know, see if things are symmetrical. You know, I'll tell you something that might improve this, and I might do it later. It's, you know, to have a couple little flower petals down here on the table. That can really be pretty. All right, I think it's kind of pretty colors, and again, I've kind of squished it down, but I don't know that that's a bad thing. And like I said, I might pull a couple petals off and consider laying a couple petals here. I'll show it to you. How long have we been taping? Oh, 45 minutes. Not so long, huh? Give me a second. Let me get out of here. Thank you for joining me. And again, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting. Here's the painting. Get you right in front of it. And we'll take you in a little bit so you can kind of see. They're very impressionistic. I think they feel like peonies. I'll show you back over here to the setup. Again, I've shortened the vase, but yeah, maybe I'll do it again and I'll get it right next time, but I think it's okay. All right, that was fun. Got to get these flowers while they're here, right? If you got fresh flowers in your yard, you need to get out there and give them a go. Flowers can be challenging. I try not to overthink them. Well, I try to mass them in and hit the lights where I see them. And if you explain the heck out of them, unless you're really good at it and you do photorealism, you know, they can look kind of folk arty, I guess that's a right term. So better to go impressionistic, I think. And again, if that's your taste, I like the softness that I have there. And again, I think they feel like peonies. All right, we'll do it again. Please join me, and I'll catch you next time. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.